So in today's video, we will be explaining the 4th episode of From Season 4, where I'll talk about a lot of hidden details and theories. The theory at the end is really wild and very valid. You'll really enjoy watching it, so make sure to watch the video till the end. And yes, I explained the episode here, so things might be a bit out of order. Nothing will be strictly linear here, just like it is in From Town. So, at the beginning of episode 4 of From Season 4, we see Boyd, Ellis, Donna, Henry, and Tabby gathered at the sheriff's office, discussing the discovery of the yellow suit man's suit. Hindi says that Miranda used to paint things she saw in the township, and in one of her drawings there was a man wearing a yellow suit. For Henry, this wasn't the shocking part. He is shocked by the possibility that the yellow suit man might actually be real and is haunting the town. Earlier, he didn't believe in these things. After coming here, he started believing in everything. Now Boyd, putting aside the theories about the yellow suit man's existence, says that maybe this outfit was left behind a long time ago by some former resident. Or perhaps the creatures are playing with their minds and someone placed it here, and it was only found now. But Jade is a bit doubtful about Boyd's explanation, because if Boyd were right, then someone would have noticed the suit earlier, since people have passed by that spot many times, but until now, no one had found it, which means this is recent development and someone placed it there recently, and we know that this happened recently. At least for this cycle, it was the first time. Now Boyd doesn't want to jump to conclusions too quickly, so we know that Jade is right because the yellow suit man really did recently transform into Sophia and enter the town. Then Boyd says that instead of making theories, they should talk to Victor and try to understand why Victor was so scared after seeing that suit, because if Victor is scared, it means he knows something about that man. Which means that the man was wearing that suit, and if Victor is afraid of him, then there must be some old memory that's disturbing him. But Henry responds by saying that Victor is his son, so he'll talk to him alone. Because if everyone goes together and starts asking questions, Victor will definitely get nervous. Anyway, before leaving the sheriff's office, Henry says that he's extremely shocked that things like the yellow suit man, the boy in white, and this town, which only existed in the painting kept in his basement, are actually real. He just can't understand how all of this is possible. But since the boy in white had said that they don't have much time left, Henry knew he had to move quickly because he truly didn't know what would happen after the final hour of the town's existence began. That is, whatever is about to happen will be very bad, and if they want to stop it, they'll have to act fast. Now, as soon as Henry leaves the sheriff's station, Donna wonders whether Henry has any idea about what happened with Miranda, or if he knows that Tabby has ever experienced Miranda's memories. At that moment, Tabby assures her that Henry doesn't know anything about this. Then Boyd tells everyone in the room that there shouldn't be any more new revelations or secrets coming out now. This means that no one will tell Henry about Tabby and Miranda's connection, and Ellis won't talk to Fatima about the yellow suit. Everyone will keep focusing on their own investigation work until they get a little clarity on the whole matter. Basically, no one in the town was going to talk about this. Anyway, Jida then brings up that he's going to take the magic mushrooms so that he can open his third eye and see the memories of his past incarnations. Donna immediately says that she is completely against this idea because they don't even know what those mushrooms actually do. They could be poisonous. Boyd also says that he's not comfortable with this either, but they don't have any other option because what's worse than Jade dying is that by the next morning, they don't know how many bodies they'll have to count. So for that reason, they have to go through with it. Now Boyd tells Donna that when Jade is on his hallucinogenic trip, he will stay with him, and if the situation gets bad, he will help Jade. After hearing this from Boyd, Donna heads out on the food gathering mission and takes Ellis with her. That means they had to go to the lake near those voodoo dolls, where they had previously found fresh vegetables. Meanwhile, Tabitha requests Boyd to step outside for a few minutes because she wants to talk to Jade privately. She wants to ask him what he was doing in the forest with Victor and Ethan. Now Jade tells Tabby that Ethan had given him the Lake of Tears assignment. That is, he had to find it, which Jim had not told him about. But Jade denies this, saying that maybe the kid is just feeling guilty, and that's why this is happening. Seeing all this, Tabby also feels that maybe Ethan is grieving, and that's why he created all these things. But I am sure that when Tabby finds the Lake of Tears, she will realize that Ethan's words weren't nonsense. At least here, Julie does believe in Ethan. Anyway, at that moment, Tabby apologizes to Jade for the things she said to him in the bond, when Jade had come to her with the soulmate reincarnation theory, and that too right after Jim's body was found. The good thing is that Jade doesn't give her a dramatic response like, "I forgive you." He simply says that Tabby doesn't need to apologize because her typing was really bad. Now, as soon as Tabby leaves the sheriff's office, Boyd comes in and sees that Jade is eating those mushrooms. He had eaten 3 mushrooms at once, which was pretty insane because I thought he would try one first and see its effect. The simple thing is, he wanted to get high so that his memories, meaning Christopher's memories, could be unlocked and the mystery of whatever is happening here could be solved. Anyway, Tabby reaches home and hears that Ethan is trying to contact Jim from his room using the broken radio. And if you notice, throughout the entire season, whether it's the radio, the walls, or anything else, the overall tone of the season is completely yellow or light yellow, which represents the presence of the yellow suit man. Anyway, when Tabby knocks on the door and enters the room, Ethan hides the radio because somewhere inside he feels that his mother won't believe in this thing. Now Tabby asks Ethan why he didn't tell her about the Lake of Tears and why he went to Jade and Victor for help. Ethan straightforwardly says that he didn't tell his mother because he knew she wouldn't believe him. And honestly, Ethan isn't entirely wrong. Ethan also says that he can't just ignore Jim, that is, his father's message, just because Tabby thinks Ethan imagined this conversation. Now Ethan says with complete confidence that his father's theory is absolutely correct. That the Lake of Tears is the way out of this town and he won't stop until he finds this lake. At this point, Tabby feels a bit guilty for not taking Ethan's mission seriously, so she tells her son to pack his bag because now she herself will help Ethan find this mysterious lake. Meanwhile, on the other side, Jolie is with Randall, and both of them were checking Ethan's books. At first, they don't find anything useful, but then Randall comes across something important when he finds the word Storywalker written in one of the books. We get a very brief glimpse of a fictional character named Fred, who is an elevator repairman and on weekends walks inside stories and fixes things. But before Julie and Randall can explore this topic further, Tabby comes into the room and Julie and Randall quickly hide the books because they didn't want her to. So that it would not be revealed that she was working on a personal mission. And her ability was quite dangerous because her life was also at risk. Now, Sara went to the diner to do this very job. The voices had told her that if she didn't do it, someone close to her would get hurt, so Sara was sitting in the diner, observing everything. There was a jug and a glass in front of her when suddenly Bagda arrives there. Finally we see Bagda. Many people were saying that maybe she would be the villain because she had been missing for quite some time, but I didn't think so. Anyway, she had taken care of Diana, and Bagda says that whatever Sara may have done before, she has changed now. And since she had already taken care of Diana, if she wants to come back and work, she can. But Sara was focused on her task. She even drinks water, but then can't bring herself to pour the leftover water back into the jug and asks Bagda to remove the glass. Anyway, at that moment, in the background, we see Sophia walking around near the pool and looking at Dale's tomb, which after entering the bottle tree, got stuck in the pool's walls. This seems quite funny to her. Meanwhile, from the diner, Christy and Mariel also see Sophia. They are feeling sympathy for her, thinking that the poor girl must be so sad and lonely. But in reality, Sophia is probably laughing to herself inside, seeing that tomb at how cleverly she fooled Dale and got him eliminated. Now, when the yellow suit man, that is, Sophia, realizes that Sara hasn't done the task she was given, she decides to prove her point, that something bad will happen to someone close to Sara. So she deliberately falls into the empty pool, landing on her hand, which results in her hand breaking, or at least she pretends that it does. Perhaps she did this just to give Sara one final chance to perform her task. Basically, this was the final warning, after which Sara finally does exactly what the yellow suit man's voices had told her to do. She drinks the water and pours the leftover water back into the jug. Now, while Christy and Mariology are treating Sophia's fractured arm, Sophia starts telling them the story of Abraham because the yellow man had read their minds and realized that they didn't believe in God. She explains that one day, God asked Abraham to sacrifice his son. And he was ready to do it, but at the last moment, on the final bridge, God stopped him and told him to sacrifice a goat instead. So, God never actually wanted to take his son away. Rather, he wanted to see how strong Abraham's faith was. In other words, all of this is just a test for Sara, and the yellow suit man considers himself to be God. Another interesting thing is that when Christy and Mariol are sitting inside having dinner, they're talking about how they don't really trust the prayers and God. In fact, they're saying the same thing about Sophia, that connecting with prayers and a higher power could bring her relief. But obviously, we know that Sophia's hand fracture was fake, and it was just to scare Sara, to make her believe the voices were real. Meanwhile, she sees that the water jug she had contaminated is being poured down the drain by Bacta. Now, in Sara's case, Sophia used the voice just to see. She used it to see how obedient and submissive Sara still is, whether she would do everything just like before. This shows us that sometimes our fear becomes an even bigger threat than the thing actually creating that fear. Anyway, on the other hand, Ellis goes out with Donna on a food collection mission to the same place where they had previously found good vegetables. However, we see that Ellis really doesn't want to go there and wants to stay with Fatima so he can ensure that she remains completely fine. But we notice that Fatima sends him there, saying that she is absolutely fine and that there's nothing to worry about. Anyway, before leaving, Donna gives some strict instructions, saying that the colony house must be kept safe and that Fatima should be watched especially closely. Tabby and Ethan also joined Donna's team now because they needed to search the Lake of Tears area, and both of them were going along so that no one would suspect anything. As soon as Donna and her team leave, Fatima goes to her room, and Elgin had almost completely filled that room with soil. But Fatima excuses Elgin because apparently she wanted to work on the soil herself. Later, Kenny notices that water is leaking from the pipe, and it's black, almost like soil. When he goes upstairs to check the source of the leak, he ends up at Fatima's room and sees that Fatima is making something out of that soil, which is actually clay. After this, we see Jade, who is tripping under the effects of mushrooms. Then the scene shifts to Boyd, who is looking at Abby's things, that is, his wife's belongings. He takes out the wedding ring Abby gave him and starts observing the infinity symbol engraved on it. And here, in this town, this perfectly illustrates how people keep wandering around only to end up in the same place, and that the things happening here have been going on for many cycles, which is symbolized by the infinity sign. But all of this comes to a halt when Kenny rushes into the sheriff's station and asks Boyd to come to the colony house. During this conversation, there's also a brief funny moment. Jade asks Boyd if Kenny is actually standing in the room because Jade thinks that, due to the mushrooms, he might just be imagining Kenny. Boyd then confirms that Kenny is real. So Jade is quite disappointed because this means the mushrooms still haven't shown any effect. Anyway, at this point, Boyd and Kenny reach the colony house. Kenny waits outside Fatima's room while Boyd goes inside to try to understand what Fatima is actually doing. Fatima says that she is making a monster, specifically a golem. She tells Boyd this and explains that it's inspired by religious folklore that she heard from her father. According to Fatima, this golem is meant to provide people with protection and hope. The most important thing was that Fatima felt the smiley-faced creature she had given birth to was still connected to her, and in some way, it could sense the fear inside her and was happy about it. So, she was making the golem, which was giving her inner strength, and because of this, the smiley demon would not be able to break her. Now Boyd tells Kenny that they should give Fatima a little space, but Kenny doesn't want to leave her alone with that golem because he feels this is a sign of some more serious mental or even supernatural problem. And this town changes everyone, and they know what happens to those who change. In fact, he even goes so far as to say that maybe the one upstairs in the room isn't even the real Fatima anymore, but has become something else entirely. Now, obviously what he means is that pregnancy had changed Fatima emotionally and mentally. The biggest thing is that she literally gave birth to a demon, so all of this was happening because of that connection. And Kanika's fear was actually justified, that maybe she wouldn't become a golem but could actually turn into a real monster. A monster that could destroy the entire town. By the way, the golem folklore is actually real. It's a part of Jewish mythology, and Fatima is only focusing on its positive side, protection and hope. But the golem is also connected to war, isolation, and despair. Now, outside the Jade colony house, Boyd joins in and says that the mushrooms turned out to be completely useless, and he didn't unlock any visions or memories. Maybe the town has changed. It's not the same as before. And I feel like all of this happened after Sophia arrived. Their memories have been blocked. Because maybe the person in the yellow suit doesn't want anyone's memories to be unlocked, so that no one finds out what's really happening here. And now, that's why Jade's focus shifts to Fatima's golem. The question isn't why she's making it, but rather why she's making it right now. And that makes Boyd start to wonder what's really going on with Fatima. Now, because of Jade's question, Boyd takes Kenny with him to Fatima's room so they can ask her directly why she's making the golem at this very moment. That's when Fatima brings up the thing about the smiley man. She explains that with the smiley creature, a connection has been formed with it. She says that whatever the smiley feels, she can sense it, and whatever Fatima feels, the creature feels it too. Because, in reality, the smiley creature derives pleasure from Fatima's fear. Fatima is making this golem so she can break that connection. Not only that, she wants to feel strength and courage instead of fear. After hearing this, Boyd and Kenny feel a bit more relaxed and decide to let Fatima continue her work. Boyd even says that he'll tell everyone to leave Fatima alone for now. Just then, as Boyd is coming down the stairs, he runs into Jade. But something strange happens. As Boyd is coming down from the colony house, that is, down the stairs, he sees Abby's ring rolling down the stairs. It's not clear whether the ring fell out of his pocket or if it suddenly appeared from somewhere because he wasn't carrying that ring around with him. Whatever the case, Boyd feels like he's had some important realization. He then takes Jade back to the sheriff's station. He goes to his room, places the ring from the stairs on the table, and then takes out the other ring kept inside Abby's box. And when he goes to compare the two rings, the stairway ring suddenly disappeared. Yes, that means the bizarre things happening in this town are extremely dangerous. Anyway, now Henry sees Victor wandering around inside the colony house. Victor is trying once again to check whether the trees have moved again or not, because for a while he had stopped doing that. Now in season 1, Ethan had also noticed Victor doing this, and at that time Victor explained that he measures the distance between the colony house and the trees to try to understand at which stage of the cycle the town actually is, because everything in this town and the forest keeps shifting gradually. Victor used to measure this regularly, but by the time season 4 arrived, he had almost stopped tracking this phenomenon. And now that the boy in white has said that they don't have much time left, Victor has started this practice again so he can see how rapidly the town is changing. He also says that things have changed very quickly here. Earlier it had snowed, but now everything has become green and lush again. Now, Victor doesn't directly explain to Henry what he's doing, but Henry still decides to help him. Now Henry hoped that maybe during this process Victor would finally tell him why he got so scared after seeing the man in the yellow suit that he literally peed his pants. And this plan works when Victor concludes that the trees are now moving much faster compared to before. Then he takes Henry to the container where he used to live. Upon reaching there, Victor starts digging the ground and pulls out a bag, inside which there was a drawing of the man in the yellow suit. And now Victor reveals something truly shocking, that he was once friends with the man in the yellow suit. He used to be, and he had come there by car, just like a normal person. Victor thought he was just another regular resident of the town. But in the final moments of his cycle, Victor saw the man in the yellow suit eating Miranda, and that's when he realized that he wasn't a resident at all, but a monster, and that's exactly how he had drawn him in his sketch. That means, in the scene we were shown where Miranda had reached near the faraway tree, it wasn't the smiley man who finished her off, but the yellow suit man who killed and ate her. And this is actually true, because Julie had already seen what the yellow suit man does to humans here. He literally eats them. Now, as soon as Henry hears this and sees the drawing, he is shocked. And finally, we understand why Victor panicked so much upon seeing the yellow suit man and why he felt like none of it was real when in fact it was all reality. On the other hand, near the lake, as they head towards the farming area, Donna asks Tabby what exactly she is doing here. Tabby talks about grief and says that she is still trying to come to terms with Jim's death. But according to Tabby, since she is an adult, she doesn't believe in ideas like the Lake of Tears or the division that claims to bring Jim back. And that's why she's afraid of how Ethan will react when he finds out that the Lake of Tears isn't real and that Jim can't be brought back. What effect will that have on him? Look at what Tabby has experienced. She literally saw the virus hanging down from her house. No one knows where the electricity is coming from. She saw a monster inside the cave. She has witnessed so many things that shouldn't even exist, so why can't the Lake of Tears be real? Now Noah notices that Tabby is getting quite emotional, so she tells her team to take a break so that everyone can get some rest. Then, Donna talks to Tabby about the moment when Tabby left that note in her room, the one that said to take care of her children in case she doesn't return from the lighthouse. But then she explains that Tabby shouldn't do anything like that, nor should she go on such a mission. She also says that Tabby shouldn't put her in a situation where later on, her children keep asking her why, after all. What happened to her? And Donna also says that her family is very important to her. In fact, she considers Tabby her own family. But just then, Ethan interrupts their conversation and draws their attention to an injured bird. Ethan says that they should take the bird to the Lake of Tears because the water from that lake can heal it. Now, Tabby didn't want to break Ethan's heart, so she agrees to keep the bird with her. Anyway, they finally reach their destination, where those same voodoo dolls were placed. Here, Ethan explains that Jade had said these were for protection. And in a way that's true, because the vegetables everywhere else had gone bad, but the vegetables here were perfectly fine. Donna takes her team to collect food, while Ethan and Tabby head towards the nearby lake so they can try to save the injured bird. Now, at the end of the 4th episode, Tabby and Donna draw water from the lake and pour it over the injured bird. But nothing happens for now. But at the same time, a member of Donna's team discovers a very thick and large rope hidden underground. Now, when they pull that rope, everyone sees that the water in the middle of the lake starts bubbling, and then something begins to float up to the surface. It seemed as if they had pulled out some kind of plug from the lake. just like what happens in a bathtub. But the biggest problem was that it wasn't at all clear what this thing actually was, though it seemed like these were corpses and... Boom. And with that, episode 4 of From Season 4 ends right here. Now look, I'm going to make some wild guesses here, and I'll say that maybe those could be the bodies of the people who, like Ethan, jumped into the lake believing it might have some magical power, that is, near the lake. But it's possible that instead of giving life, the lake actually takes life, and if that bird dies in the next episode, then this theory will be confirmed. And speaking of that disease, if it's connected to the cluster of bodies, then maybe some people, after catching that disease, dove into the lake thinking that it would give them an exit to the real world. And honestly, this theory seems quite plausible. It's possible that someone told them as well that this lake is the key to escaping the time loop, and they took that literally. Meaning, they thought they could just swim straight into the real world, but by the time they realized that this actually wasn't the mythical Lake of Tears, it was already too late and they drowned and perished. Here, as you can see, the marks were of no use. It's possible that this isn't even the literal Lake of Tears, and maybe, just maybe, the yellow suit man appeared as Jim to mess with Ethan's mind and told him to do this. In some way, it could be that he wanted Ethan's sacrifice. Anyway, another possibility could be that these are the corpses of residents from the previous cycle, which the yellow suit man or the creatures might have dumped into this lake, so that the town looks clean before the next victims arrive. And maybe these could be things from the future of the current residents living here. What will happen to them? Or it could be some lake-bound creature that protects the money from the real world. For example, if you remember, Sara and Boyd were dragged to the other side by a giant spider. So maybe these people have awakened something that is quite dangerous. And another theory suggests that, if you paid attention to Victor's drawing, there was one where the entire city was flooded, meaning it was filled with water, and the people were standing on their rooftops, that is, on the roofs of their houses. So what if the rope lying in the lake is actually a plug and the lake's water is flowing through a path that leads to the city? It could be that, gradually, swimming will fill up, and after that, the entire city will drown, which will actually create the Lake of Tears. Now, episode 14 basically hints that the town is a supernatural time loop where the past, present and future are leaking into each other. The man in the yellow suit doesn't seem to be just a monster, but rather the controller or manipulator of the entire loop, who uses people's fears, grief and guilt to mentally break them, like Sara's voices, Fatima's smile, a connection to a creature, and Boyd's disappearing ring. The biggest thing is Abby's appearance to her, and all these things point towards this manipulation and timeline distortion. Julie's Storywalker concept reveals that some people can access timelines and past cycles, but changing them isn't that easy. They can only give hints. Victor's revelation that the yellow suit van ate Miranda confirms that it exists across generations and cycles. The trees are moving very fast, and the boy in white's warning indicates that the town is now entering its final stage. And regarding the Lake of Tears, the biggest theory is, the prevailing theory is that it is either a real-world portal or a deadly trap where the bodies of victims from previous cycles are present, and the hidden theme of the episode is clearly fear versus courage, because the yellow suit doesn't gain control through knowledge or power, but through people's fear. Perhaps the real way to escape the town was not to defeat the monster, but to conquer the fear within oneself. Anyway, now let's talk about some scenes related to the episode and the wild theories connected to them. The bird that Ethan found is actually a starling which can mimic human voices and many other sounds. Before this, except for crows, no one had seen any other bird inside the town. And the biggest thing is that one of this bird's wings was injured, so it perfectly mimics the yellow suit man, who can also transform into a human, mimic someone, and has a broken arm as well. He too suddenly appeared in this town in a similar way. Another thing about Sophia is that Acosta will definitely find some old photo of her, and she must have existed many years ago. That's when Acosta will start thinking, if Sophia was here so many years ago, how did she come back into the town now? And he will tell Boyd about this. Now let's talk about why Julie couldn't bookmark that moment, and more importantly, why she ended up in that yellow suit man's massacre scene. If you look closely at the clothes she was wearing, they definitely belong to someone from that same time period when something like that happened, and that's how she can go into a particular chapter, meaning only things from the past should be her bookmarks. She should use Victor's drawings to go back to the moment when things were happening, so that she can reach the time where she'll get a chance to fix everything, or at least give some hints. I think that all the weird things in the town, the strange noises, the hints people were getting, were actually given by Julie herself. In other words, bookmarking something in the future book and bookmarking something in real life are not the same. It means that the past, Julie will have to use things from the past and other items as bookmarks. She'll need to understand this, and this theory is pretty wild. Just imagine, Why did she go to this particular moment, or why to the last moments? It's probably because she was wearing some residence clothes or had some item from that moment with her. Now let's talk about how Boyd got that ring, even though it was in her box. This too could possibly be the doing of future Julie to warn Boyd, and it's exactly like when she saved Boyd in the dungeon by throwing him a rope at Martin's request. Remember, earlier we didn't know who threw the rope, but later it was revealed that it was Julie who did it. So maybe the matter with the ring was also Julie's doing. In this town, the past, present and future don't work the same way as they do in the normal world. Or maybe all of this is just the effect of Boyd's Parkinson's disease. And what if Boyd doesn't even have this disease, but it's just the town's time that's leaking, causing things from the present, future, and past to appear? The ballet dancer on the vertive board was also visible because of this time leak. Now, let's talk about the boy in white. During the massacre, the boy in white told Victor to gather all the belongings of the dead people and keep them together. So maybe the boy in white knew that these belongings could be used to travel to the past. And yes, you might remember that when Julie came here on her first night in town, a monster immediately recognized her and said, "Julie, how are you?" That means Julie was going to do story walking in the future, and Julie must have gone to that moment when the monster saw her. That's why both the monster and the man in the yellow suit knew that Julie could story walk, and they knew her. At first, when season 1 came out, I thought maybe the monster had read her mind, but now this theory fits perfectly. That means Julie is going to do story walking many times now. And isn't it possible that it was near this very lake of tears where the previous residents sacrificed their children? And who knows, maybe the bodies that were found were those very children who were sacrificed. So friends, these were the wild theories, hidden details, and the entire story of episode 4 of From Season 4. I hope you enjoyed everything.